So our book is called Saved by Her Enemy. And this is a book that is really set for the most part in 2003 and 2004, which is the initial beginning of the war in Iraq, and then around the 1-year anniversary of the war. I go into Baghdad in February, basically February 1st, I think it was, of 2004. And one of the first people I meet is sitting here right next to me, Rafraf Barrak. I'll tell you a little bit about Rafraf. You won't know this from seeing her. She grew up in a very poor part of Baghdad, had never left the city limits of Baghdad her entire life until, by happenstance really, she ended up working as a translator for NBC News shortly after Saddam Hussein's government fell. To make a 336-page book short, she speaks excellent English and had risen to the attention of one of our producers who, when it was time to sort of staff up and Tom Brokaw was coming to Baghdad, they reached out, found her, and hired her for the network. She had this skill, which was suddenly very marketable in an economy that had completely dissolved, in a world that had gone crazy from her view. She spoke English. Her family, they all lost their jobs, and here comes this big American company saying, here's more money than you've ever seen, please come help us. I had reached out to a military unit that was in charge of rebuilding a school that the US Air Force had bombed because during the initial invasion, that school was being used as anti-aircraft artillery by the Iraqis. So of course you shoot back where it's coming at you, and it basically destroyed the school. Well, part of the effort to win back the hearts and minds of the Iraqi people was to go in and, among other things, rebuild these targets. And I had told them, I'm looking for something positive, please, there's gotta be something. They said, well, there's this school. Why don't you come with us? We will protect you. It's safe, people there love us. And there's cake and ice cream and Coca-Cola and all these kids, and we're gonna be at this school as we hand it over to the Iraqi people of this community. And I said, I'm that kind of guy, let's go do that. So we pile up, and not just Rafraf and I, but several people with the NBC contingent, and in fact, a sister network was with us that we took out there with us. So we loaded into 2 SUVs and had a really nice afternoon with kids and cake and ice cream discussing this great thing, and they were happy. It seemed like a great day. Until the bomb went off. And it was not a great day. People knew that we were going to be there. I'm not saying us in particular, but that the media was going to be there, that the military was going to be there, and something positive was happening. And of course, in an insurgency, they can't allow that. Her name started circulating on a list to be assassinated among the insurgents there. Our security people who worked for NBC at the time had found the list, found her name. She had had multiple warnings from the insurgents specifically, stop what you're doing or we're going to kill you. But she was supporting her entire family, who had no other way of working at the time without that job, and I knew she wasn't gonna quit. And I knew that, I almost felt like I was starting to see a ghost, like this young woman who seemed so bright with such a future ahead of her. I knew in my heart that she was gonna die a violent death, and it was gonna happen pretty soon. I made a call home to my wife, and I said, look, there's this girl here. I know this is gonna seem kind of weird, but I'm thinking of bringing her home. If we could work that out, would that be okay with you? And my wife said, well, it goes into more detail in the book what she said. I'm just going to summarize real quickly. There was no profanity. What she said was, if she really needs our help, and you really think we can help her, then absolutely. That's what it boiled down to. But at least 2 of 3 network anchors that are on TV right now started giving money, because we said the only way we can do this is to put her in college in the US. We can get a student visa, and it's going to cost money. And we raised, in a matter of 3 months, not just from my colleagues, but if you had the misfortune of sitting next to me on an airplane, I apologize. Good news is I flew 2-3 days a week on stories, so there was a good chance that I'd say, "Hi, I'm Don, let me tell you a story." And it would end with me handing you an envelope and saying, "If you can help, we need $60,000. It turned out we needed $70,000, and we raised that really in about a 3-month period. Shocking. But people were very generous. So I'll fast forward a little and say that without giving away the ending, we got her here. And Rafraf has lived either at college or with my family as a big sister to my daughters and kind of a bothersome little sister to me and my wife for the past 5 years, since late 2004.
Well, I was born in the 1980s, and through that there was the Iran War, and then after the Iran War there was the Gulf War in 1990s, and I was only 10 years old. Really, it was, I actually woke up that day, January 17th in 1990, and I remember it because I woke up and there was no power, and I still went ahead and started washing my face and getting my hair ready to go to school. I was 10 years old, and my mom goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm getting ready for school." She goes, "No school, there was a bombing last night." And so we went through all that sitting in a room. Our house had this living room where there was windows, corner windows, and you just sit in the back and you watch what's going outside. And my dad went and taped all the windows, so if it breaks, it doesn't scatter all of us on us. And so we just sat there and we watched it. We watched the colors in the sky. It was, to us, we were just 10 years old. I mean, to me, and it was all just colors, really. And we got used to it. We kind of just got used to it. At the same time, that to us was, all the bombings that we hear were really kids. So when your family are telling you who's attacking you, you grow up with that mentality that, man, this is my enemy, and that name sticks in your head all the way you're growing up, and you know that this is your enemy regardless, So that was kind of the mentality that I grew up with, that whoever attacked my family and burned the sky, because really everything for us, what we were told is that, they burned all the oil fields and now the sky is burning. My whole family lost their jobs and nobody had work, nobody had anything to do. And with me, I was like, hey, wait a second, I can speak English. I mean, yeah, these people were went in my country and did this and did that. But right after the war, you start listening to these radio stations and everyone is giving a different opinion, and you go, well, you know what? I'm gonna put everything aside. If this can get me money so I can provide for my family because we're running down on supplies, I'm gonna go do it. So I went and did it. I went and applied at different places, and I ended up with NBC News. And I started getting to know the people on a different level. It's a level of friendship. These people are not trying to ask me for anything or trying to kill me or have any guns on them, except of course for the security guys, but I stayed away from them. But you go to work and you don't expect to be hated by them. They actually need your help. And for once, I felt useful. I go there and these people are actually asking me questions, asking me to go and talk to people for them. And I felt like a bridge. In a weird way. It's just you stand between the two people and you're the only one that can understand both conversations. And it made me feel oh my God, I can actually be so useful. So of course, the biggest bonus of all this is that I was going home with a lot of money that my whole family was provided for, and I started looking for jobs through the people I started meeting for everyone else in my family, so they can all be provided for. Meanwhile, what I did not recognize is that everybody was turning against whoever is helping the Americans. Because what I forgot is the mentality I grew up with is still there for people who hadn't met the people I met.